The morning air hung heavy over Maple Grove as Jayda Ellison stood inside her family's modest home, heart pounding yet controlled. Outside, 15 armed officers fanned out across the lawn, their boots crushing dew-covered grass her father had tended for decades. Captain Trent Calder's voice boomed through a megaphone, demanding she open the door, while Sheriff Brock Whitaker maintained a false calm beside him. Jayda's military training surged to the forefront. She ignored the chaos, picking up her phone to document every illegal move. Her camera captured Calder signaling his men, the battering ram slamming against her front door, and the neighbors frozen in shock, phones raised. The air seemed to vibrate with tension. She calmly locked interior doors, ensuring her father's restored hardwood floors remained intact, each step precise. She sent messages to Judge Miriam Caldwell, a retired federal judge and trusted neighbor, requesting oversight. Calder's threats escalated, instructing officers to cut power, enforce a total perimeter, and intimidate anyone approaching. Jayda recorded it all, her voice steady, narrating each violation, noting false military terminology, and the absence of any federal agents. Her teenage daughter, Sienna, arrived at the police line only to be stopped by officers, her face a mix of shock and determination. Jayda's hands flew across her devices, backing up evidence to the cloud. Outside, the neighbors' cameras captured every movement, creating a growing chorus of witnesses. Calder's frustration mounted visibly. Whitaker attempted to maintain a composed facade for the gathering crowd. Jayda continued documenting, noting the lack of warrants, probable cause, or federal presence. Her father's study, walls adorned with medals and lifelong memories, became a sanctuary and command center. She dialed a secret Pentagon number concealed within her father's old Bible, invoking protocol he had taught her years ago. The line connected her to the Office of Special Operations Oversight. Calmly, she relayed the unauthorized siege, the number of officers, the absence of legal authority, and the ongoing obstruction. The Pentagon instructed her to maintain her position, preserve all documentation, and not to surrender any materials. Calder's men grew uneasy, some lowering weapons as they recognized the sudden shift in authority. Federal observers arrived, and state investigators took control of the perimeter. Whitaker and Calder's earlier confidence crumbled under scrutiny. Jayda watched as the illegitimate operation began to unravel in real time. Judge Caldwell confirmed the credentials of internal affairs personnel. Jayda stepped out, flanked by witnesses and volunteers, documenting every exchange. The truth of the morning siege, fully recorded and verified, stood ready to challenge the false narrative of lawless authority. Each neighbor, veteran, and bystander became a crucial piece of accountability, ensuring that the unjust force deployed that day would not go unexamined. The morning sun rose fully over Maple Grove as Jayda, Sienna, and their allies prepared for the next moves, resolute and ready to protect both evidence and family. The stage was set, every angle captured, and a tide of justice quietly forming around them. By late morning, the tension in Maple Grove had transformed into a carefully orchestrated standoff. Jayda monitored the officers from her study windows, noting their every movement, each one like a piece on a chessboard. Calder barked orders, signaling younger deputies to sweep the perimeter, unaware that federal observers and state investigators had taken subtle control of the situation. Sienna, still held at the police line, kept her press badge raised, capturing footage for Jayda and broadcasting in real time. Judge Caldwell moved among the neighbors, coordinating witness documentation, ensuring each camera and phone was pointing at the unfolding events. Jayda moved with precision, using her father's study as command. The hardwood floors echoed her careful steps, the medals on the walls glinting in sunlight, a reminder of discipline and vigilance. Outside, Whitaker continued performing for the crowd, his voice projecting authority he no longer possessed. Calder grew increasingly agitated, mispronouncing military terms and issuing incorrect protocols, revealing the falseness of the operation. Jayda's fingers flew across her devices, logging timestamps, faces, and commands. Each photo and recording backed up to multiple secure cloud accounts. The crowd of neighbors, veterans, and community leaders became an unintentional buffer, their presence preventing the officers from making unchecked advances. Jayda sent repeated messages to federal contacts, confirming the unauthorized nature of the operation. Slowly, the officers' confidence began to falter as they recognized the growing scrutiny. Whitaker's smile became strained. Calder's red-faced rage was obvious to everyone. Jayda remained calm, her mind mapping exit strategies, observation points, and ensuring Sienna's safety. Then, a subtle shift. The officers were being observed by higher authority. Federal observers moved into position, state investigators identified themselves, and internal affairs personnel began documenting the siege. Calder's commands lost weight. Whitaker received whispered communications, his bluster replaced by concern. Jayda observed through her camera as officers lowered weapons, radio chatter became hesitant, and the organized intimidation began to dissolve. Judge Caldwell confirmed credentials and verified that the federal presence was genuine. Jayda allowed herself a measured nod. The first victory was in the control of information, and evidence. Outside, neighbors adjusted positions, filming and reporting every subtle change, creating an intricate record that could not be refuted. The siege that had begun as a show of force was now crumbling under its own lack of legitimacy. Jayda used the brief window to ensure all devices were synchronized, evidence backed up, and communications secured. The officers who had hoped for intimidation were now the observed. The morning's chaos had shifted into a slow, disciplined unraveling, with every move recorded, every action noted, and Jayda's control steadily increasing. The stage was set for the next phase, securing the evidence, ensuring the safety of her daughter, and exposing the unlawful siege. Each breath she took was controlled, her mind mapping sequences, knowing that the strength of community witnesses, federal oversight, and meticulous documentation was her shield. In the shadows of her home, Jayda prepared to turn the tide completely, while Calder and Whitaker faced the first real consequences of their reckless display of authority. As the afternoon sun climbed higher, the tension at Jayda Ellison's home shifted into controlled strategy. Federal observers and state investigators had fully established the perimeter, their presence neutralizing the aggressive posturing of Calder and Whitaker. Jayda used the lull to analyze every recording, cross-referencing timestamps, camera angles, and officer positions. Sienna, finally allowed closer, continued documenting live streams, her teenage focus unwavering despite the morning's chaos. Judge Caldwell directed neighbors and veterans to maintain vigilant observation while ensuring no escalation. Jayda's phone buzzed repeatedly. Each message confirmed the unlawful nature of the operation and outlined further support from federal oversight. The illegal siege, meant to intimidate, was now meticulously documented and systematically undermined. Calder barked orders, but his officers hesitated, uncertain of their authority under federal scrutiny. Whitaker's facade cracked, his performative confidence replaced by visible anxiety. Outside, the community's vigilance, amplified through live streaming and social media, prevented any covert action, turning the neighborhood into a bulwark of accountability. Jayda coordinated with federal contacts to verify warrants, ensuring no door would open without legitimate authorization. The officers' missteps, incorrect radio protocols, failure to produce paperwork, and hasty tactical maneuvers were recorded in high-resolution detail. The early afternoon brought a subtle turning point. The federal and state investigators began overtly instructing Calder and Whitaker, signaling that their command was no longer recognized. Jayda's strategic patience turned the tide. Her military training and analytical skills allowed her to anticipate officer movements, predict attempts to intimidate neighbors, and secure Sienna. With every recorded misstep, the legal and public accountability mounted. Observers confirmed documentation integrity and advised on next steps, while Jayda and Sienna reviewed footage to ensure redundancies across cloud backups. The siege had become a live study in power, legality, and civic vigilance, exposing abuse and inspiring community cohesion. Jayda's attention to detail, the alignment of timestamps, the verification of personnel credentials, and continuous communication with federal oversight ensured no officer could manipulate the narrative. Whitaker's commands now rang hollow as neighbors, veterans, and local journalists observed every act. The morning's unlawful aggression transformed into a carefully recorded demonstration of procedural violation. Jayda felt the weight of responsibility, knowing every action now would determine the exposure of corruption. As the sun dipped slightly, shadows lengthened across the property, but Jayda remained focused. Each step outside the immediate crisis involved careful positioning, constant recording, and precise coordination with federal authorities. This was no longer merely defense, it was the methodical establishment of irrefutable evidence against Calder, Whitaker, and any involved conspirators. By mid-afternoon, the perimeter was fully under legitimate oversight, the threat neutralized through documentation, observation, and adherence to lawful protocols. Jayda reviewed her plan, her mind scanning for vulnerabilities, ensuring Sienna's safety and preparing for the next phase of action. Recovery of evidence and exposure of corruption. The unfolding afternoon proved the strength of preparation, community witness, and disciplined observation against aggressive intimidation. Every camera angle, every cloud backup, every verified witness formed a chain of accountability that no false narrative could break, laying the groundwork for justice. By late afternoon, Jayda's strategic vigilance had turned the siege into a controlled observation operation. The federal observers moved freely across the perimeter, while state investigators verified every officer's identity and credentials. Jayda and Sienna reviewed footage, noting every misstep, from improper radio calls to unverified commands. Calder and Whitaker's confidence faltered further. Their aggressive posture was now restrained under the glare of accountability. Judge Caldwell coordinated witness documentation, ensuring neighbors, veterans, and volunteers recorded every moment. Jayda used her father's study as a command center, cross-referencing camera feeds, tracking officer movements, and confirming that no illegal entry occurred. Sienna, determined despite exhaustion, maintained live streams and cloud backups, preserving the narrative in real time. The illegal operation, designed to intimidate, was now methodically dismantled through evidence, observation, and community vigilance. Federal and state oversight forced Calder and Whitaker into compliance. Their earlier threats rang hollow. Jayda sent secure messages to Pentagon contacts, verifying warrant status and reinforcing federal authority. Each recorded misstep was logged with precise timestamps, photographic evidence, and corroborated witness testimony. The neighborhood had become an unintentional safeguard, a barrier of collective scrutiny that prevented covert or violent maneuvers. Jayda anticipated potential escalation, mapping defensive positions and coordinating contingencies to protect Sienna. The officers' lack of preparation and familiarity with proper procedures became increasingly evident, contrasting sharply with Jayda's disciplined response. By the late afternoon, the siege was no longer a threat, but a documented case study of illegal intimidation. Jayda's careful orchestration, combined with federal oversight and community support, had neutralized the aggression. Every photograph, recording, warning, and witness statement reinforced accountability. Calder's attempts to manipulate the situation were met with procedural corrections and direct federal supervision. Whitaker's attempts at intimidation were nullified by the presence of legitimate authority and public documentation. The sun began its descent, casting long shadows across Maple Grove, but Jayda remained focused. She checked all devices, ensured cloud backups were complete, and confirmed the integrity of every recording. The siege had transformed into a methodical exposure of misconduct, a demonstration of preparation, legal adherence, and community vigilance. Jayda and Sienna reviewed footage, verified witness positions, and prepared for the next phase: recovery and securing of sensitive evidence while maintaining full documentation. The unfolding hours proved that discipline, foresight, and strategic use of lawful authority could counter and expose aggressive corruption. Every decision, every backup, every recorded interaction now formed a chain of evidence that would be impossible to suppress or falsify, setting the stage for complete exposure and eventual justice. As the late afternoon sun dipped toward the horizon, Jayda Ellison shifted her focus to securing the evidence her father had hidden. Hale briefed her on the storage locker where key documents and materials had been kept. They prepared for transport, ensuring every file, photograph, and recording was accounted for and backed up in multiple cloud locations. Sienna assisted, her focus unwavering despite the exhaustion and adrenaline. Jayda's tactical mindset guided every movement, from planning routes to ensuring surveillance coverage. Whitaker and Calder, now visibly unsettled, maintained a cautious distance under the watchful eyes of federal and state officials. The neighborhood, fully aware of the unfolding events, remained vigilant, their phones and cameras documenting every development. Judge Caldwell coordinated with volunteers, confirming that evidence and witness accounts were distributed securely across multiple channels. Each movement of Jayda and Hale was carefully timed, anticipating potential interference from local authorities still loyal to Whitaker. The sun's fading light cast long shadows, adding urgency to the recovery operation. Jayda navigated streets with precision, her military training allowing her to predict patrol patterns and avoid confrontation. Upon reaching the storage facility, they encountered locked gates and a nearly empty lot. Hale guided Jayda to the correct unit, their progress quiet but deliberate. Inside, the cramped space was organized meticulously, a testament to her father's foresight. File boxes, footlockers, and sealed envelopes contained decades of evidence, financial records, shipping manifests, and coded notes. Each item was methodically documented, photographed, and backed up. Jayda Ellison carefully selected the most critical pieces for immediate transport, leaving the remainder for later recovery with a larger team. The operation required absolute discretion, and the presence of a few witnesses ensured accountability without attracting unnecessary attention. As they prepared to leave, a black SUV appeared in the distance, moving silently and matching their speed. Jayda's instincts screamed danger. The SUV rammed their vehicle, forcing a chaotic spin toward a concrete median. Hale and Sienna clutched their evidence, bracing as Jayda executed evasive maneuvers with calm precision. Armed men approached, appearing to be law enforcement, but lacking proper identification and protocol. Jayda acted decisively, assembling her father's preserved sidearm and using measured defensive force to neutralize threats without escalation. Sienna used the distraction to secure the evidence bag. The attackers, realizing they faced trained resistance and an organized witness network, retreated. Police sirens approached in the distance, marking the arrival of legitimate authority. Jayda ensured the evidence, including the crucial earpiece and recordings, was preserved for federal investigation. Hale's injury was tended, and Sienna continued her documentation. The ambush revealed the depth of local corruption and the persistence of those trying to suppress the truth. Jayda's meticulous planning, community support, and disciplined response had turned an attempted attack into a controlled preservation of critical evidence, setting the stage for exposing decades of criminal activity and ensuring justice would follow. Nightfall brought a tense quiet over Maple Grove as Jayda Ellison regrouped with Hale, Sienna, and Judge Caldwell. The storage facility evidence had been secured, but the danger remained immediate. Federal oversight confirmed that the material and documentation were now protected. Yet Jayda knew Whitaker and Langford would attempt further interference. She coordinated a network of neighbors, church volunteers, and veterans to maintain surveillance, ensuring no vehicle, officer, or suspicious figure approached unnoticed. Hale assisted, providing insights into blind spots and potential traps along the route to the safe houses. Jayda carefully mapped movements, taking into account patrol patterns, timing, and communications. Sienna reviewed live feeds from earlier recordings, backing up everything redundantly. As darkness deepened, they prepared for the next phase, confronting the conspiracy at the abandoned sheriff's training facility. Jayda double-checked her father's sidearm, ensuring it was ready solely for defense. Every piece of evidence was bagged, catalogued, and prepared for release to secure channels. Outside, the neighborhood remained a silent shield, lights blinking from windows, neighbors ready to record any further harassment. Hale briefed Jayda on the facility layout, security rotations, and potential contingencies. The operation required utmost precision. One misstep could compromise Sienna's safety and the integrity of the evidence. Jayda's mind calculated distances, entry points, and timing down to the second. The night air was heavy, filled with anticipation, each shadow potentially harboring danger. They moved in coordinated silence toward their transport vehicles, avoiding lit streets and predictable routes. Every turn, every alley was accounted for. On the edge of the training facility, Jayda surveyed the buildings, noting the positions of guards and contractors. Sienna, still restrained but alert, managed to disable security circuits, creating temporary openings for safe entry. Jayda communicated through secure channels with the volunteer network, preparing them for any unexpected escalation. Inside the facility, they located Sienna's holding area and neutralized the guards with controlled, non-lethal measures, emphasizing precision and protection. Jayda retrieved her daughter, securing her safely while maintaining surveillance of the surrounding perimeter. Hale provided cover, ensuring no surprises from any direction. The facility, previously a clandestine site of corruption, was now fully documented, every step captured for federal and legal review. Jayda coordinated extraction and safe transport of all individuals and evidence, moving with the same calm precision that had carried her through the morning siege. By midnight, the network of witnesses, volunteers, and secure channels ensured that Whitaker and Langford could no longer manipulate events unseen. The night had become a controlled operation in exposure and preservation, setting the stage for legal action and the final unraveling of decades of corrupt activity. The early hours of dawn painted Maple Grove in soft, pale light as Jayda Ellison prepared for the decisive phase. Hale had returned from medical treatment, his presence critical to overseeing security during the upcoming exposure of Whitaker and Langford's operation. Jayda reviewed maps, entry points, and evidence packages, confirming that all redundancies were in place. Sienna, still fatigued but resolute, monitored live streams and communications, ready to coordinate with the network of witnesses. The abandoned sheriff's training facility, now under full observation, would serve as the stage for exposing decades of corruption. Jayda and Hale approached the facility using side routes, avoiding predictable paths and monitoring surveillance cameras placed by the volunteer network. Shadows stretched long across concrete and chain-link fences as they moved with deliberate caution. Inside the facility, guards maintained routine rotations, unaware that every move had been documented and communicated to federal observers. Jayda coordinated with Sienna via secure channels, instructing her to manipulate control systems, creating opportunities to secure both personnel and evidence. Every corridor, door, and camera feed was accounted for, each step choreographed for maximum efficiency and minimal risk. Hale provided cover from concealed positions while Jayda infiltrated the holding area, neutralizing the corrupt personnel with controlled force. Sienna, now freed, disabled the facility's emergency communications and gates, ensuring no rapid escape or reinforcements. The operation was precise: defense and preservation over aggression, documentation over destruction. Outside, volunteer witnesses observed, ready to record any irregularities. Federal oversight ensured legitimacy, turning the facility into a controlled environment for legal and investigative purposes. The corrupt actors, Whitaker and Langford, were exposed incrementally as Jayda transmitted secure evidence packages and monitored radio communications. The coordinated approach minimized risk, protected the innocent, and maximized accountability. By mid-morning, the evidence had been fully recovered, the conspirators immobilized, and the network of witnesses and authorities ensured that no falsification of the narrative could succeed. Jayda and Sienna regrouped with Hale, evaluating the situation and confirming that every critical piece of information, every recording, and every witness statement had been preserved. The morning sun illuminated the facility, revealing the outcome of careful planning and meticulous execution. The corrupt chain of command was exposed, evidence was secure, and the stage was set for justice. Every participant in the operation recognized that the meticulous preparation, foresight, and disciplined strategy had turned potential disaster into controlled victory. By mid-morning, Maple Grove was alive with the evidence of meticulous planning and strategic action. Jayda Ellison had positioned Sienna and Hale to monitor key access points while maintaining secure communication with volunteer witnesses. The county training facility, previously a covert site for corrupt operations, was now under the watchful eyes of federal observers and state investigators. Jayda reviewed the network of live feeds, each angle providing confirmation of the perimeter and documenting the presence and actions of Whitaker, Langford, and their contractors. Every entry, every movement, and every conversation had been logged for legal scrutiny. As Jayda moved through the facility, she ensured that evidence packages were fully secured and marked with time-stamped metadata. Sienna manipulated access controls and security circuits, creating controlled zones that prevented unobserved movement by corrupt personnel. Hale provided protective oversight from concealed positions, ready to intervene if any threat materialized. The corrupt actors, unaware of the comprehensive observation network, continued to attempt operational adjustments, revealing themselves further in their nervousness. Jayda maintained her composure, her mind calculating sequences, predicting behavior, and coordinating communication between all parties. Judge Caldwell and the volunteer network monitored the periphery, ready to document any deviation or attempt at interference. Each recorded action, transmitted securely, was backed up redundantly across multiple cloud accounts, ensuring preservation and integrity. The corrupt chain of command was effectively immobilized. Whitaker's gestures and Langford's instructions now broadcast across monitored channels, fully captured and logged. Jayda and Sienna coordinated the extraction of critical materials from holding areas, securing files, photographs, and communications devices without confrontation beyond measured defensive maneuvers. The operation unfolded methodically, combining preparation, intelligence, and disciplined action to neutralize threats and protect vital evidence. By late morning, the recovery was complete. Every piece of evidence had been secured, the network of witnesses remained vigilant, and federal observers confirmed the legitimacy of the operation. Jayda surveyed the facility, noting that meticulous planning, precise execution, and community vigilance had transformed potential disaster into controlled success. The corrupt actors were fully exposed, the evidence preserved, and the stage was set for accountability. Maple Grove, once a scene of intimidation and threat, now stood as a carefully documented testament to strategy, courage, and the power of disciplined, lawful resistance. The late morning sun cast long shadows across Maple Grove as Jayda Ellison and her team finalized preparations for public exposure of the corrupt operation. Sienna monitored every feed, ensuring the secure transmission of evidence from the facility to federal channels. Jayda double-checked each package, verifying metadata, timestamps, and witness confirmations. Hale provided cover and coordination, maintaining readiness for any unforeseen interference. Volunteers, church members, and veterans remained stationed along key observation points, their presence both protective and deterrent. Inside the training facility, Whitaker and Langford attempted hurried coordination, unaware that each action and instruction was being recorded and analyzed. Jayda and Sienna executed their plan methodically, extracting all critical evidence while ensuring safety and maintaining absolute documentation. Every step was captured across multiple devices, creating a fail-safe network of recorded accountability. Federal observers confirmed compliance and readiness to preserve all captured materials. Judge Caldwell and the community volunteers relayed updates to oversight channels, ensuring redundancy and accuracy. The corrupt actors' attempts to manipulate or reclaim control were thwarted by the synchronized presence of evidence, observers, and a vigilant perimeter. Jayda moved through the facility with precision, securing files, photographs, and digital media while monitoring the environment for potential threats. Sienna's manipulation of security systems ensured controlled zones and blocked possible escape or interference. Hale provided cover and coordinated timing to synchronize actions across all points. As the operation concluded, Whitaker and Langford's authority was effectively neutralized. Their intentions were fully documented, leaving no room for denial or manipulation. By noon, all evidence was secured, redundancies verified, and communications with federal oversight established. Jayda's strategic execution, combined with community engagement and lawful authority, ensured that the corrupt network had been fully exposed and that the necessary materials were preserved for prosecution. Maple Grove, once threatened by intimidation, had become a model of disciplined resistance, precision planning, and civic accountability. The morning siege, the ambush, and the facility operation were now entirely documented and safeguarded, ready to compel justice and reveal the truth at every level of authority. By early afternoon, Jayda Ellison had orchestrated the final phase of exposing the corrupt network. Every piece of evidence recovered from the training facility had been verified, timestamped, and backed up redundantly across secure channels. Sienna managed live feeds, ensuring the narrative of Whitaker and Langford's misconduct was fully documented in real time. Volunteers, veterans, and community witnesses remained positioned to record any irregularities. Jayda mapped the movement of every corrupt officer, anticipating attempts at cover-ups or interference. Hale coordinated tactical oversight, ready to intervene if any threat arose. The corrupt actors, now fully aware of the comprehensive observation network, attempted to adjust their operations but were constrained by federal oversight and the surrounding network of witnesses. Every command, every order, every movement was being transmitted, recorded, and documented, leaving no room for ambiguity or denial. Jayda coordinated with Judge Caldwell to confirm that all procedural and legal safeguards were in place, ensuring no challenges could undermine the evidence. The surveillance network captured all interactions, making the corrupt operations exposure inevitable. By mid-afternoon, the recovery and documentation process was complete. Evidence was secured, the perimeters monitored, and observers in position. Whitaker and Langford's attempts to manipulate events were thwarted by meticulous planning, lawfulness, and community vigilance. Jayda and Sienna consolidated files, verifying backups, and prepared for the imminent release to federal authorities. The county's corruption, once hidden, was now fully exposed. The neighborhood's vigilant observation, combined with strategic planning and careful execution, ensured that accountability would follow. Maple Grove, once threatened, now stood as a testament to organized resistance, meticulous preparation, and the power of coordinated lawful action. Every recorded step, verified witness statement, and secured document would provide the basis for swift legal intervention. The stage was fully set for exposure, justice, and community empowerment, demonstrating that deliberate strategy and disciplined execution could neutralize even deeply entrenched corruption. By mid-afternoon, Maple Grove had shifted from a scene of tension to a controlled operation under Jayda Ellison's precise oversight. Every recovered piece of evidence from the training facility was catalogued, time-stamped, and backed up in multiple secure channels. Sienna continued monitoring live feeds and communications, ensuring each detail of Whitaker and Langford's corrupt operations was documented and protected. Volunteers, neighbors, and veterans maintained observation positions around the perimeter, ready to intervene or record any unlawful activity. Jayda coordinated movements with Hale, who provided tactical cover while ensuring the safe handling of all evidence. Inside the facility, every room, corridor, and access point was under her surveillance. Whitaker and Langford attempted hurried adjustments, but each action was recorded and transmitted in real time. Judge Caldwell verified all procedures, confirming the legitimacy of federal oversight and the completeness of the documentation. The corrupt actor's authority had been fully undermined by careful observation and strategic control of information. Jayda and Sienna secured all files, photographs, and digital evidence, creating a fail-safe chain for federal review. The neighborhood network continued documenting activity, providing redundancy and witness verification. By late afternoon, every aspect of the operation had been captured, analyzed, and protected. The corrupt network was effectively immobilized, the evidence preserved, and the community's vigilance ensured no further interference could succeed. Jayda reviewed communications, verified all backups, and confirmed that federal channels were ready to act. Maple Grove, once a site of intimidation and fear, now stood as a model of disciplined strategy, lawful resistance, and community engagement. The careful planning, methodical execution, and coordinated observation transformed potential chaos into a meticulously documented case, ready for exposure and legal action. Every volunteer, witness, and participant had contributed to turning intimidation into accountability, securing the evidence and ensuring justice would follow. The stage was set for the final exposure, with the corrupt actors fully constrained and the truth prepared to emerge in full daylight. As the late afternoon deepened into evening, Jayda Ellison coordinated the final stages of securing and disseminating critical evidence. Sienna ensured that live feeds from the training facility were fully functional, capturing every movement of Whitaker, Langford, and their contractors. Jayda and Hale mapped secure extraction routes, accounting for potential interference and patrol patterns. Volunteers and community witnesses remained strategically positioned to document all activity, creating layers of redundancy that left no opportunity for corruption to operate unseen. Inside the facility, Jayda methodically retrieved remaining files, photographs, and communications devices, carefully packaging them for secure transport. Each piece of evidence was logged, time-stamped, and backed up in multiple cloud accounts. Whitaker and Langford, now acutely aware of the surveillance network, attempted cautious maneuvering. but federal oversight and witness presence prevented any unauthorized actions. Judge Caldwell coordinated external observers, confirming procedural integrity and ensuring no legal challenges could compromise the operation. Jayda reviewed every detail, cross-referencing recorded footage with real-time monitoring, verifying the chain of custody and preparing for transmission to federal authorities. The neighborhood's vigilance amplified the operation's effectiveness, turning each home into a node of accountability. By evening, all evidence had been secured, and Jayda had established clear communication lines with federal contacts to ensure immediate review. Hale and volunteers confirmed readiness for any unexpected interference. The corrupt actors were fully constrained. Their authority had been neutralized through careful planning, disciplined execution, and coordinated community action. The operation's meticulous documentation transformed potential threats into irrefutable evidence, preserving both safety and legality. Jayda and her team moved with precision, ensuring the integrity of the material while preparing for public exposure and formal investigation. Maple Grove, once under intimidation, now stood as a testament to strategic planning, resilience, and disciplined resistance. The groundwork for accountability and justice had been fully established, with evidence, witnesses, and oversight all prepared to prevent any attempt at suppression. Every action taken reinforced the truth, ensuring that corruption would be exposed and cannot evade scrutiny. Nightfall settled over Maple Grove, bringing a tense quiet that belied the activity still underway. Jayda Ellison and her team reviewed the secured evidence one last time, ensuring all files, recordings, and photographs from the training facility were catalogued, time-stamped, and backed up redundantly across secure channels. Sienna monitored live streams, alert to any movement near the perimeter, while Hale positioned himself to cover extraction points. Volunteers, veterans, and neighbors maintained observation posts, ensuring that the corrupt actors, Whitaker, Langford, and their contractors, could not interfere. Inside the facility, Jayda coordinated with federal oversight to verify the chain of custody and confirm proper legal procedure, while Judge Caldwell managed communications with outside witnesses. Every step, from movement to extraction to observation, was recorded and cross-verified, leaving no opportunity for denial or manipulation. The corrupt actors were constrained, unable to execute plans or reclaim authority. Jayda prepared the final packages for transmission, confirming redundancies and backup power sources. Sienna, displaying disciplined focus, ensured every feed remained live and secure. By the late-night hours, the operation was effectively concluded. Evidence fully secured, witnesses positioned, and federal oversight in place. Maple Grove had transformed from a site of intimidation to a controlled, meticulously documented operation, demonstrating the power of preparation, strategic planning, and disciplined action. The groundwork for exposure and justice had been fully established, leaving Whitaker and Langford vulnerable to the full force of legal and federal scrutiny. Jayda reviewed every piece of evidence, every recorded interaction, and confirmed that the chain of accountability was intact. The stage was set for the final release, where truth and justice would prevail. The night's quiet was deceptive, a prelude to the broad daylight exposure that would dismantle decades of corruption. As dawn approached, Jayda Ellison prepared for the final stage of exposure. The neighborhood remained alert, with volunteers, veterans, and witnesses positioned to record any movement. Hale monitored tactical points, while Sienna ensured live feeds and secure backups remained uninterrupted. Jayda reviewed all evidence, confirming that files, photographs, and recordings from the training facility and prior operations were fully documented, time-stamped, and backed up across multiple secure channels. Federal observers were in position, verifying legal compliance and ensuring no interference could compromise the chain of custody. Judge Caldwell coordinated communication with outside witnesses, overseeing the controlled exposure of Whitaker and Langford's actions. Jayda calculated movements, timings, and contingencies, anticipating any attempts by the corrupt actors to manipulate the situation. By early morning, all evidence was prepared for official release, with every volunteer and witness aligned to preserve integrity and accountability. The corrupt actors, aware of the surveillance and federal oversight, were unable to act without exposure. Jayda reviewed communications, verified all backups, and ensured federal channels were ready to receive the evidence immediately. The sunrise over Maple Grove symbolized both vigilance and justice in motion. Jayda and Sienna were poised to initiate the release of critical evidence, demonstrating that careful preparation, disciplined execution, and community vigilance could neutralize even deeply entrenched corruption. Every documented action, witness report, and backup ensured the integrity of the operation and the certainty of accountability. The final exposure was imminent, and Jayda knew that the culmination of meticulous planning, strategic foresight, and unwavering resolve would deliver justice to the community and uphold her father's legacy. The morning sun rose fully over Maple Grove, illuminating the quiet aftermath of the long siege and facility operation. Jayda Ellison stood with Sienna, Hale, and Judge Caldwell, reviewing final transmissions and backups to ensure that all evidence had been preserved and disseminated appropriately. Federal authorities were en route to collect the documented files, recordings, and photographs, while volunteer witnesses maintained observation points for continued accountability. Whitaker and Langford were fully exposed, constrained by the weight of documented evidence and federal oversight. Jayda coordinated with federal channels to confirm receipt of critical files, cross-referencing all timestamps and recordings to guarantee integrity. Sienna ensured that live feeds and secure backups remained operational, providing redundant verification for any legal proceedings. The neighborhood volunteers, veterans, and observers had created an impenetrable layer of accountability, ensuring that no subsequent tampering could occur. Jayda allowed herself a measured moment to absorb the culmination of months of planning, discipline, and precise execution. The corrupt network fully exposed, evidence secured, and community vigilance proven effective. Hale checked final perimeter security while confirming that all sensitive materials were safely in transit. Judge Caldwell oversaw the final documentation of witness statements and verified procedural compliance. The sun climbed higher, casting golden light across Maple Grove, symbolizing both endurance and triumph. The operation, from siege to facility recovery and evidence exposure, had preserved the integrity of justice while protecting the innocent. Jayda stood on her front porch, looking at neighbors reclaiming their streets and children playing freely where fear had once dominated. Sienna leaned against her shoulder, exhausted yet resolute, her camera now storing the final recorded proofs. Hale acknowledged the meticulous execution and discipline that had brought justice to the forefront. Judge Caldwell offered quiet reassurance, emphasizing that standing together and documenting truth had changed the trajectory of events. The Ellisons' home, once a target of intimidation, now represented resilience, vigilance, and the power of lawful resistance. Jayda checked her tactical vest, ensuring all devices were accounted for, then looked at Sienna and said, "We did everything right. The truth is out, and it cannot be hidden." The community's unity, meticulous documentation, and unwavering courage had secured justice. The day's events would ripple through authorities and media alike, establishing accountability that could not be ignored. As the light of the afternoon spread across Maple Grove, Jayda turned to Sienna and Hale. Taking a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility give way to the promise of resolution, she spoke clearly, addressing both her team and the broader audience through the documentation. Subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, and share this video. The community had reclaimed their power, the corrupt exposed, and justice firmly established in broad daylight.